Hi, everybody, and welcome to this interview with Paula Davis. Paula, I'm so happy to have you here with me. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, and I'm so grateful to be invited to come and speak today. Thank you so much. Very gracious.
Thank you for being here. And where exactly are you connecting from? Can you remind me?
Yeah, I'm from Austin, Texas. So that's right in the center, the heart of Texas. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so Paula is a medium and author and has written a book called We the People of the Land That Used to Be, TELOS Revealed. So Telos is the underground city below Mount Shasta and is a topic which I hold very much in my heart. My listeners will know from the interview with Dianne Robbins, which I did in 2020, as well as the more recent interviews with Lowell Johnson, who had the extraordinary fortune of visiting the city of Telos. So, Paula, will you tell us a bit more about your book? What inspired you to write your book?
Well, yeah, exactly. My story is a little bit similar to Lowell's in that just last June, I was not aware of the city of Telos, nor was I even aware that there were beings that lived in inner earth, nor did I even have any kind of real connection or knowledge about even extraterrestrial beings. I mean, I knew that they existed. I mean, they had to, right? From a scientific perspective, it's ridiculous that other life wouldn't exist. But it really wasn't in the front of my consciousness. But I am an evidential and intuitive medium. And so what that means is I mostly connect with people's loved ones on the other side. I would have interviews with them. Like, you know, I have your grandfather, your spouse, la, la, la. We'd have very much spirit world interaction. But during this time, we had been going through some difficult things with the inflation. This was just last spring, summer. Inflation was up and gas prices were going crazy in the United States, maybe in the rest of the world as well. The Ukraine war had come in. There was just a lot of fear and dissension among the people that I was connecting with on social media. So I sent out an all call to light workers of the people that I knew and said, let's all get together and let's see if we can work together to network and really provide service to people right now that are in bad shape. And as I made this all call out and was collecting people together and we were talking about what we could do to serve, in my meditation one day, I received a very strong voice saying, hello, we're here. We're also light workers and we want to work with you too. And I said, you are? Who are you? Hello. And it was so strong and so real. And one of the people that was such a prominent voice was my person that I know as my spirit guide, which is Khalil. And Khalil is an angel that promotes truth and justice. Now, here's what's kind of unusual about that is Khalil was coming in as an angel. Now, I grew up in the Lutheran, religion, Catholic. So I think angels as being these very flowy, wonderful, loving beings. But in truth, Khalil was kind of like a hard ass. When he would talk to me, it was like very strong and very insistent. And if I'm resistant to something, you better do it, la, la, la. And I'm like, wow, this is rough. It's very nice. It was kind of more militant. So what was interesting is this voice that was coming in, it was him, but it was instead of it being more ethereal, it was more direct and real. And he's coming in and he's saying, okay, here's where we're at from standing from like almost a battlefield perspective. There's a lot of light workers that didn't wake up. So we lost a lot of people that we'd have in the game. And he's like talking, and I'm like, really? I'm like, okay, this is like, he's hitting me as if he's giving me a briefing, like a military briefing, instead
Wow.
of like an ethereal guidance. And so I'm like, oh, okay, you know. And so I'm sort of just absorbing it and being at peace with it. I learned that I just have to receive and then sort of like unpack it later. And then I started getting, I received Catherine the Great, who helped to bring in the Enlightenment movement to Russia.
Oh.
She came in. This other woman came in who told me she had lost her children to the Black Plague, and now she's in the spirit world bringing in children whose parents haven't passed yet, and she sort of helps to guide and take care of them. And I'm like, wow, what's with all this information? Sojourner Truth came in. Sojourner Truth is a woman from the United States who had freed, she was an enslaved woman in the South, and she escaped to the North to free herself. And then she became an inspirational speaker, and she was for women's rights and abolition, you know, so to free slaves. So she was for that. And she came in and said, the first generation of humans to be born free has already been seeded. You know, the word seeded. And I said, I didn't really know what that, you know, that I don't know those terms, but I know people in the spiritual community, they're like, oh yeah, that's a term, seeded. And, but I didn't know the time frame on it. I'm just receiving. And then they guided me to watch, I didn't know this was happening, but in the United States, the Defense Department was coming before Congress. So this was in June. This is on my around my birthday, and which is June 19th. And June 19th is actually Emancipation Day for slaves. It's celebrated as Emancipation Day. So I've always been called a freedom baby. Because anybody born on June 19th is a freedom baby.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yeah. And so they were directing me to look at this video from May of that year. So just 1 month prior, showing that the Defense Department had come before Congress to say, in fact, UFOs are a thing. They don't understand the technology. It does appear to be advanced, and they don't know that much about it. And I about fell over. I thought, wow, this is a huge admission. And then on top of that, they did say, you know, there's been stigma in the past in coming forward with people's experiences, and to please know that that stigma is going to be removed. Now, please come forward with your experiences and your witnessing. And I thought, wow, this has all been happening. I didn't know it, because there was a lot of mass shootings going on around that era. So that sort of took all the noise. And I don't pay that much attention to news because I don't like to be brought down. So it was guiding me to all this information. And then finally it revealed, we live in the inner earth. And it guided me to Dianne Robbins' books. It guided me to order her books and to read more about Adama, Nikos, to get more information on the history of the Lemurians and Atlantis. And these were all things that I knew, but I wasn't into. I didn't do any research on it. And they were guiding me like this, you need to move in this direction. And also asked me, can you please, when you do public demonstrations, can you please tell people about us? And I'm like, well, number one, I'm a little bit shaky with it myself. And number two, people don't know me in that sort of genre. And so this is challenging. And so, of course, I'm hearing from Khalil, but you got to do it.
So hold on, is Khalil also part of the inner earth?
I feel Khalil is part of the Galactic Command, because
okay.
I've had experiences, dreams that I have not been able to understand in the past, where I am wearing a military suit and I'm in inner earth, and I didn't know that's where I was. I didn't know that's where I was. So before all this transpired, I had been having dreams for many years, even before my spiritual awakening, where I'm wearing a military command outfit, but everybody else is wearing very beautiful, sparkly garbs. And I'm just sort of like, really like not as attractive as everybody else.
Okay.
I'm just like a run-of-the-mill person in my galactic command suit. Everybody else is wearing very beautiful clothes. And I'm in what I know, it feels like a spaceship, but it's also organic. And I can smell the beautiful rocks. I smell it and it feels like home. It's a little bit moist and it's just, I love it. I love everything about it when I have those dreams. And I love myself. I think I'm the coolest thing that ever was. But everybody around me, they're not thinking that about me because they're thinking that about themselves. I think it was trying to interpret to me, this is what true self-love is. This absolute adoration for oneself.
Well, the most important thing is your relationship with yourself. So yes, if you think that about yourself, that's great. Wow.
Exactly. And I felt like that in Inner Earth. I was like, I am just the most wonderful thing that ever was. And here I am just, pretty plain Jane looking in the Inner Earth. And so so I would always ask people, I said, I have this dream. And of course, when it's something that's real and not a dream, you know how you can recall it as if it's happened just yesterday. Like it's so clear. And it's still clear. As I speak to you today, I bring myself back to there. And I love it. But I ask people about it and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, okay, well, because I'm trying to find people who've had similar experiences, knowing that it's something. The closest thing anybody ever said, and she's very in tune with extraterrestrials, she said, maybe you're going to inside of the moon because the moon is hollow, she said. And so that was what I adopted for myself for a long time. I said, I'm in the moon. I must go to, but now I know it's Inner Earth, right? I know that.
Right,
Yeah. It's been Inner Earth. I just didn't know that. And so then, guided me to Telos and they said, just start talking about it. It's going to be okay. Just start talking about it. So I started talking about it in this room that I might have, like it's in Clubhouse. There might be 50 people. And I start my inspirational speech and I start talking about the city of Telos. And zoop, I can see people leaving like roaches. And they're like, oh, she's gone crazy. Because they haven't come for that. And I'm like, here we go. This is the end. I'm like, oh, well, it is what it is. Because I know from my heart that it's real, what I'm receiving. And I have to be trusting, number one. And I said, oh God, I said, it's just me and it's Dianne Robbins and maybe 5 of us folks with the tin hats, tin foil hats. There's just us and we'll be our own little group. And I just have to be okay with that for my future now. And Spirit said, no. There are hundreds of thousands with you. Don't worry. You'll become aware of them soon. I said, okay. All right. But until then, my life is gone. So, and the person that hosts this room with me, she's like, oh God, I can't walk this path with you. This is nuts. But she came with me. She supported me the whole time. So I have to give it credit to her. But then, sure enough, I start watching this channel, Gaia, because a friend of mine had joined the Gaia network as a content advisor. So I said, well, I'm going to support him and get my Gaia membership back. First thing that pops up, there's Lowell. Journey into Telos. I said, what the hell? Are we truly like manifesting our lives? Like, because who could have thought? And then I watched Lowell's episode. I probably watched it 10 times to say, am I dreaming this? Is this real? There's this guy and he's got this strong Minnesota accent. Where am I from? I'm from Minnesota. And he talks just like as if he's one of my like a brother to me or an uncle, because he's just so genuine and real. He's just like one of my family members telling me that he went to Telos and was invited in. I thought, oh, thank God. truly, you just have to step out there and just, and so I was so glad that I trusted myself. And then that happened. And then I started watching various podcasts that he was on. And then other people like yourself are completely immersed in this, and this is your reality. And then I found Facebook groups where there's 40 and 50,000 people, all Telos, all
Oh, yes, there's a
Shasta.
group, isn't there? There's a group.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. And during this whole time, as I'm opening up and receiving and discovering this isn't just something maybe I'm all by myself in, during this process, I'm writing this book that they have guided me to write, to explain. And in truth, to be honest with you, it's guided more towards somebody like myself who doesn't know at all, and trying to bridge the gap, the very big quantum leap that you have to take in faith of where we started in our history, Mesopotamia, the cradle of what we call our cradle of civilization, to the path, the very natural evolution of where we're coming into with our, rejoining with our family in Telos in a very real 3-dimensional, 5-dimensional way, and why it's a natural path, and why it's the only reason it's difficult is because of our own resistance over these centuries, these thousands of years, our own resistance to our natural born gifts, our natural born path. The natural evolution of humanity has been a push and pull of bringing in the light and then dimming the light, bringing in the light and dimming the light. And it's back and forth to the point where it's not unlike my own path in this. When it was revealed to me, I had to make that quantum leap, to this realization. And I had to take it within like less than a month. And the book is written, they did, Khalil had me get up at 5:30 in the morning, exercise, immediately have my butt in my chair by 6:15. And I had 12 chapters written in less than 60 days with sources. So this isn't automatic writing, it's inspired writing, but it's backed up by a lot of traditional academia and traditional sources, because the truth is true no matter what. Like, you can't hide the truth. So it's going to be in our day in and day out lives, but you have to flip your perspective to see the truth within the academia. So one of the things that I present is that in traditional academia, in the cradle of civilization, the very first people that they say moved from being Neolith, which is of course the caveman, with no, they're nomads. They move around. Well, they call the cradle of civilizations, kind of started when I'm going to put down roots. I'm going to start farming. I'm going to start creating opportunities to make pottery and jewelry. And you have to be settled to do that. It's not just, getting food. And so it was at this point where they started building temples for gods that they had before they settled. And they built these temples very quickly, very easily. They very uniform, very specific building codes to their temples. And they built them to Enki, Enlil, Inanna, all of these beings that are in the book, the Nephilim. And they were their gods right from the beginning. And traditional academia, the number one person known for studying this information, her name is Dr. Padani, and she's at Cal Poly Tech in California. She says, these people believed they were created to be slaves to these gods. They were created to be slaves. And we all know, well, many of us know that Zecharia Sitchin was saying the same thing. He was saying, these beings believed these humans were created to be slaves to these gods. what Dr. Podani doesn't say is that these gods came from outer space. She doesn't make that leap. However, I feel the reason why they told me to write this book now, like right now, right after the congressional hearings, is because now we can make the link to say, from an academic perspective, that these beings did come from outer space. And this was the thought, that they did have purpose, just like we engineer dogs for work, for a particular kind of work, or we engineer animals for a particular kind of work. And even in the slavery times in the United States, you would breed people for a particular kind of work. Now, in my book, I state that this isn't true. The only reason I say it isn't true is because think about trying to breed a dog for work. You're going to have 10 puppies, maybe 6 of them are going to do the work, and 4 of them are going to be like, hell no, screw you. I'm not bred for this, right? In truth, it's your God source is guiding you, and you're born from a God source way beyond what anybody can engineer, right? And so my argument is, you can create that paradigm in the mind, but truly, if you don't want to follow that paradigm, you can shift yourself. And that's the invitation of this book, is that, yes, the strong paradigm has been belief, like we do keep creating over and over again systems of overlords and authoritarians over a large mass of people. That energy is strong among us. And even when we try our best to create the best intentions, like the United States of America, we try to create liberty and freedom. We know that has been corrupted, don't we? The intentions in the positive direction were strong. However, the paradigms within the masses didn't always allow for that. An energy will eventually come over us that will create an overlord situation. So we might say liberty and justice, but of course our corporations don't allow for a lot of those liberties and justices that our government proclaims, right? And we're seeing that. So that's the essence of that book. And then nature's saying, this can't go on. We must end this. Like eventually it's diminishing returns. And then we must, we ourselves detonated the nuclear bomb to say, that's kind of a code word for, okay, we will use technology and energy, and we'll put resources and people and money into destructive forces with this electromagnetic field. And we'll put more energy there than we will towards benefiting humanity. And when we do that, it's kind of like you pull the plug on things, and then there's this gestational decline of where we are today. And then we must, emerge with our bigger family into something better.
So is there a message for humanity to help them in their lives in your book?
Yes. So the message always is, and it starts from the beginning, and it starts with a very much a real experience I had, which is we need to make that quantum leap. So for example, this was long before any kind of spiritual transformative experience I had, but in my yard, I had some beautiful live oak trees, and they had a particular pattern of living. But one year they dropped tons of acorns. Like I was hip deep in acorns. And I said, my gosh, what's going on? I mean, it took everything I had to like pile them up into bags, and I put them out on the boulevard, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these garbage men are going to, why does she have so many acorns in her bag? And I'm assuming other people had the same situation. And Spirit guided me to this example as I was trying to discover what was going on in the world, because that's really how this all started. And it said, remember all those acorns that dropped? And then the year after, we had a severe drought in Texas where thousands and hundreds of thousands of trees died. And it was just, we were in imminent danger with the lack of water that we had. We didn't, limited with how much we could drink and take showers. Everything was very limited.
Oh.
And so Spirit said, the universe always knows what's going to happen before it happens. And for those that are open to receive that information, they will be guided to the quantum leap that they need to make to move into that new world. Those trees received that information. It said, we need to quantum leap our development. Instead of becoming 2 inches taller that year, we need to use those resources to drop those acorns. We needed to change who we are. And the bigger message is, as we all become, the invitation is to become very intuitive and start receiving the messages to be where you need to be, to do what you need to do, to change the paradigm within yourself so that you can go with these changes. Because catastrophes happen. For example, we're looking at Turkey right now.
Yeah.
Turkey is a catastrophe. However, we know that we had all the technology and knowledge and ability to build structures that would have prevented much of the catastrophe that we're experiencing right now. That information was given from God, from our source, from the infinite intelligent mind for a reason. If we do not use what is given to us intelligently, that's when we experience the pain of change. We're always guided to everything that we want and need as we want and need it. We're always told what's going to happen before it happens. And the invitation is, am I going to dig my heels in and insist that I'm right with how I feel? Or am I going to be a little bit more relaxed and flow and go with it? And so right now, how many arrests are happening with these shoddy built structures in Turkey right now, right? They said many of the structures were new. They weren't old structures. They were new structures that weren't built to code. We're given these technologies for a reason. We have to use them. We're given this knowledge for a reason. We have to move with it. In my book, at the same time that the nuclear bomb was constructed, we were also receiving lots of information from Tesla as to how we could free people from energy. That's what's happening at the same time. So was Hedy Lamarr. She was a movie star here in the United States. She had developed frequency hopping spectrum. And that was an opportunity to start, and that was eventually Bluetooth technology that we use with the internet and cell phones and everything, right? We could have had that information in 1942 to have free information. Sequestering would have been very difficult. So they denied her that technology. It didn't come into play until 2000. That was 70 years lost, right? 70, 80 years lost of free information. How many, we're still, a lot of the files from Tesla are still classified under the FBI. They confiscated them when he died and made them classified. Also, we know Maria Orsic, who had received information on how to build spacecraft, how to use propulsion without any kind of fossil fuels, was developed at that time. That would have been free transportation for people. And she rode that spaceship with her consciousness. So then there's an invitation to develop your consciousness to have freedom of movement. But we denied all three of those technologies. And instead, we put all our resources into that same energy field, into nuclear bomb. And so so that was an invitation. We can't use fossil fuels past this short time. We can't do it. the earth won't sustain it. Our own bodies won't sustain it. The environment won't sustain it. Here's an invitation to move into the electromagnetic field. We said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep using fossil fuels, and we're going to find more uses for fossil fuels. We're going to make plastics out of them. Like plastics didn't exist back then, right? We're going to make so many things out of fossil fuels. And then here we sit now, what was it, on January 1st, 2000, as I was editing my book for the last time, there was a story, I think on 60 Minutes, that said, we are in the middle of a mass extinction right now. We are in the middle of a mass extinction, but we can go back and point the data point during the World War II, where we could have made that quantum leap shift. Is it ever too late? No, we need to make the quantum leap shift now. And that's what my book is about. Make the quantum leap shift now.
It's because people weren't getting it. Their consciousness was too low.
That's
but
right.
Now, because it's rising, more and more people will get it. So
that's right.
Free
Exactly.
energy and free travel, it's all the things we would like to see in this new golden age that we're creating. So
and
this is very important information. You've done very, very thorough research.
It's very documented with traditional forms of information. Some of it is alternative, but most of it's from traditional forms of information. But you connect the dots to where it started. Absolutely. So, yeah. And we need to ask for help. We need to ask for help. We need to ask for help. We can't, we have to be the ones to ask for help. It can't be a missionary movement from them to us saying, you need help. We have to be the ones empowered to ask for the help. Just like, I point to a foundation I support called the Unstoppable Foundation, where women from Kenya saw that the situation in their village was terrible. So they walked to the city and said, we need help from you. And just through that, amazing transformations have been happening for them in Kenya, but we have to be the ones to ask for help, saying we have to surrender to it like an alcoholic. We have to surrender and say, we can't do this on our own. and ask for their help.
It's a universal law that we have to ask for help, because the higher beings, they will always respect our free will. So if you would like the angels to help us with something, we need to ask all the higher beings, unicorns, dragons, the galactics, as you call them. When we ask for help,
yes,
it will come. But then we have to listen and look out for the signs, and then take action. That's the most important thing.
And then take action. We can't be sedentary. It is action oriented. Absolutely. And as my expansion has developed quite a bit over this less than a year. In my demonstration readings, I started getting readings from the crystals themselves for people. So I had this crystal candy dish. So I said, I have a crystal candy dish and it has a cover on it. And one of the people in this room would know this crystal candy dish. And this woman said, yes, I know, that was a gift I had. I said, well, this crystal, so you would know that this has been locked up in a cupboard on a shelf. She goes, oh yeah, it's up on a shelf in a cupboard. It wants to come out and be with you while you work at your computer during the day. I said, I'm getting readings from crystals. What's going on?
Everything is alive. Crystals.
Everything's alive and wants to interact.
They're so wonderful. This is a Lemurian crystal, talking about Telos. So they've all been programmed. Can you see these stripes?
Yes, I can.
So the Lemurians, many, many, many years ago, have programmed them so they would help us activate and co-create this new golden age. So the crystals are all working to help us.
As always, I'm the last one to the party.
Yeah.
The last one to the party. Everybody else is like, I'm like, what? I'm a kindergartner. Can you help
Well,
me?
you've made your quantum leap. Your consciousness is coming in at a higher level now. So that's why you're getting all this information coming to you. And you're going to attract different people to share it with, because you were saying everyone was running away.
Right.
When you were talking about telos, so you're going to attract the right people to you who are ready to listen to this. So maybe
Who are
get a
ready.
shift in audience as well, because you're coming in at a higher consciousness. So you will get a higher consciousness audience.
Right. But with a deep appreciation of understanding why it's difficult to completely absorb it right away if this is brand new, like there is this empathy for that, you know. I do understand that aspect of it, but during this time now, I did send a photo to you. I emailed it.
Yes,
I sent it
I
this morning.
saw it.
So I don't know if you can see it in the lighting that you're in. Can you see that they're angels?
Yeah, I could see it. You want me to share it?
Well, if you want to, if you think it's visible enough, it is. So while I was writing my book and going through this time, I was very much sequestering it. It said, don't have a lot of contact with humanity. Just please sequester in and just do your due diligence in writing, because it was eminent with a time frame. Time was of the essence in getting this out. And so while I was, can you see those two white things?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it
Yeah.
looks like angel wings. I can see.
Yeah, they are angel wings. And so as I was writing this book and I was kind of going through the challenges of it, it's just a lot of challenges, to be honest with you. I was walking my dogs and I was inspired to put my camera on the moon and then sort of take video. And as I was putting it up to the sky and taking video, all of these entities were coming in, and including these two, they came in as two round dots. But then as I zoomed in, I saw that they were angel wings. They were moving like angels, like real angels.
Wow.
It was that. And then even within the trees, I was seeing the sparkling of the elementals, like little elemental beings. I don't know what sits in the trees. And then other things were coming in like rectangle shaped, but as they came in, they burred a hole in the atmosphere. So, you know, you see the kind of the granular look of granular black, but you can still kind of see the energy. But then as they come in, there was a deep black hole that would leave an imprint of a black hole as they came in. And I have a whole video of that. And then I also have a separate video where this blue sparkling Merkaba comes in. So I say all this to say they've been supporting me, to say, this is real. You know, we're here to support you.
I've got this one here on my desk today.
Is that,
This is, it's an angel orb.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Many people are capturing these kind of images now, aren't they?
Is it happening more prevalently now?
Well, it already has been for quite a number of years.
Number of years.
Number of years that people are capturing angel orbs. And it's just the angels really want us to know they are here. And like that, so we can ask for support.
I was so grateful, because to feel that support, knowing that the support we have on the other side, the numbers are huge compared to the more noisy, lesser numbers in front of us. And that is, to me, the big benefit. Like, I am on the right path. I just have to keep walking it and moving forward in peace with it.
So what have you learned in the process of writing this book? What's the most important thing you've learned?
I feel like the most important thing I've learned is that every one of us has been given the opportunity through either spiritually transformative moments or through conversations with others or things that we've been guided to read that are giving us the opportunity to make a quantum leap shift. Nobody's been left behind. Nobody has been not given the opportunity. And so with that, I know that there is universal love for all of us. And then there is this honoring of free will to go with that or not go with that. And even to the last moment before we make the big shift, I know Source is going to be there for everyone, giving them the opportunity. They will never give up. So I will never give up on anybody. I will not give up.
It's
But
not
also,
an individual thing, it's for everyone, the whole world, all
it's
sentient
for everyone.
beings. They
Yeah,
all
and there's this
come with us.
to come with us.
They have to
Exactly.
come with us.
Yeah. And
So,
even this book probably speaks to that more as we come into more catastrophes, as we've been doing. Like, you've probably heard of all these strange things that have been shot down in the United States over the last weekend.
I haven't, because I avoid the news as well.
Yeah, good for you. Me too. So we had a Chinese surveillance balloon shot down, which is increasing our tensions with China. That happened, I think, about 8 days ago. And then over the weekend, we had 3 more objects the size of maybe a car that have been floating in the airspace of the flights. And so our military jets have had to go down and shoot them down. And they're trying to analyze what it is, where it's been from. They're unmanned craft, but they don't know what it is. And so as tensions heighten, and they actually had to say specifically, well, we know they're not alien. So they actually said that. They said, well, we don't know what it is, but we know it's not alien craft.
Oh.
So they're having to include that vernacular in their description of what is and what isn't. It's like, no, it's either China or Russia. No, China, Russia, alien.
Okay. I see.
They're having to expand that consciousness of what they explain what is and what isn't now. Yeah. And so I think the book is timely because of the tensions heightening with all of that.
Okay. So what is your background? You're a medium. You're working as a medium.
Yep. That's been a very recent incantation. I have a background in political science. So the book starts talking about my strong desire. And this is where truly dream big. I would invite people to dream very, very big, because it comes to pass. In the 1990s, when I graduated college, I specifically majored in political science because I thought it was the most exciting time to major in politics, because apartheid was coming apart in South Africa. Like, that was ending. That was kind of like that last systematic slave system was ending. The Berlin Wall is coming down. Gorbachev and Reagan were starting to disable their nuclear armaments and making a plan for continued disarmament. And so I thought this is the most exciting time to be part of politics, because we can start reallocating our resources from defense mechanisms into human development mechanisms. Plus, on top of that, we started, computers were coming into the more day in and day out lives at that time. So we could use computer models to make good policy decisions. Like, we could, create an algorithm where we make this decision today, and what is the effect 50 years from now? We could kind of play that out and make good decisions based on that really good technology. And so I got into political science. I started working as an intern at the Minnesota State Legislature. And I'm like, oh gosh, this isn't where it's at. These guys are really like dead in the water. They're not energized like I am and excited. And over that period of time, I got married. I started having kids. And then I started and I was a campaign manager, but just for candidates that had no chance of winning, because I felt like they needed to have their voice. So I would just kind of do things like that we need to have representation for the little guy. But then I started working with the Obama campaign, Barack Obama. So when he first started coming in, there was very little chance of him winning, but I believed in him so strong. I started working on his campaign. He won. I was invited to the inauguration. And even after that, I wanted to be part of like community programs. Well, I became pretty disenchanted with that administration because upon that, we had that big economic crisis in 2008. And in truth, I should have known that I was more psychic than I realized, because even before this, I started predicting events before they would happen. So in 2003, so this happened to me, 2003, I got this download. Paula, there's going to be an economic crisis in 2008. Prepare for it. So I just listened to it. I didn't know where it came from. It's sort of like I heard it and I followed instructions. And me and my now former husband positioned ourselves very well for that economic crisis because I got that information. Now I know that was proof to tell me to write the book, to say, universe knows what's going to happen before it happens. Pay attention and you can reap the benefit of it. And I wrote that, I talked about that in my book. And so in 2008, we had the opportunity to make big change because Obama said, change, change, change. But when that happened, the policy that was enacted, under that pressure situation was too big to fail. We need to keep things the same. So we poured tons of money into the banks to keep them safe so they wouldn't fail. But at the same time, the American public was allowed to lose their homes in foreclosures left and right. They were just kicked out of their homes. Then those homes were then picked up by people that had cash. Then they resold them a few years later at twice the cost of the house, right? Okay, this all happened under the Barack Obama administration. Not to say he could prevent it, but then I decided the system is bigger than the people in it. It's running a machine. It's bigger than all of us, and it's going to keep running us into the ground until it just dies, right? So I said, I got to get out of politics. And so in 2012, after the ending of his first administration, I was sitting at my kitchen sink and I was looking back in 1992, and I said, God, in 1992, I was so excited about what the future would bring. And since then, we have been nothing but in decline. Like the income gap is huge. Diseases, we're having more diseases instead of less. We've got more people committing suicide now than before. 1 in 4 people is on antidepressants. The opioid addiction problem in the United States was out of control. The happiness factor had gone down from 1992, even though the gross national product, our economy, had gone up. And I said, what the hell's going on? And I literally said it with such emotion. And instead of answering with my logic mind shut down. And in that moment in 2012, April 2012, I said, what the hell's going on? And this voice said, Paula, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're not going to get that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I turned my head, I said, what? And as I said that, my body, I had an out-of-body experience. My body became huge, giant. And this earth was tiny. It was like a little ball between my hands. And it shifted back. And then I was back at my kitchen sink. And I said, well, forget what's going on. I said, what the hell was that? I thought I had a stroke. I thought I better go to the hospital. And I did not have a spiritual bone in my body. I didn't know anything about spiritualism. I didn't know anything about, I knew religion, and I knew Native Americans called themselves spiritual, but I didn't know anything about it. I grew up Lutheran. So, I mean, that was neither here nor there. I said, I was agnostic. I said, if there's a God, that's fine. But he dropped our asses off and he said, you're on your own, buddy. So I was like, if God exists, it doesn't matter because I'm on my own. Like I got to make this happen by myself. I didn't feel like there was any support behind me at all. Despite, things happening to me that I never questioned because I didn't have that in my belief system. So that is what that voice scared me. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong because I live in the suburbs. I'm raising my kids to be good kids. I'm doing all the things right. I eat healthy. I exercise. I thought I was the picture of doing everything perfect, you know? And so it was telling me I was doing everything wrong. Oh my
With a
God.
wake-up call.
Yeah, I said, but it didn't specify what things I was doing wrong. So I was like, oh my God. So I had to back up everything. I had to just lose everything. I said, whatever I think I'm doing right, whatever this voice is, it was so powerful. I had to just let everything go. And then I started, I looked to Deepak Chopra. Thank God, you know, because he had that quantum physics. I could see it from a scientific perspective. And then he said I needed to meditate. So I meditated for the first time. The first time I meditated, this little orb, white orb, came into my inner eye, and it said to somebody else, to a group of people behind me, it said, "Oh, she's awake," but like super casual. But I like really casual, like, "Oh, she's awake." Oh, okay. And then it floated back away to these other people. And here's what's weird. I knew they were eating lunch. They were having lunch and they're like, "Oh, okay, oh, great." And they were having lunch. And I thought, what kind of spirit beings eat lunch? So,
No, that's funny.
that's so weird.
Oh
And then
my
I
God.
started taking off flying over these beautiful mountains and trees. And I know it was all inner earth. Now I know it was all inner earth.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't
Well,
know that.
tell us some more about your connection to the people of Telos.
Yeah, well, now I look back on my dreams and I know. So for example, in my dreams, this was before knowing about Telos. And like, you got to understand, I had no clue before June. No clue at all. So in my dreams, I remember seeing my quarters, I call them quarters, are very simple in Telos. They're very small and very earthy, and it doesn't have a roof. It's very small, it's very quaint. And I myself, when I was a kid, and even today, if I'm having a real difficult moment, and this is revealing, this is embarrassing, but I'll go in my closet and set up a little space for myself, because my quarters are very simple. I know, in the inner earth, or maybe the, you know, galactic experience, they're very simple, but I love it so much. But there's no roof, and there's this device in the corner that when I speak, my voice goes into this device so it doesn't go out where other people can hear it. I can see it's a spiral thing, and it captures the sound. And then all the sound from outside is also captured in this device, so I don't have to hear it. It's technology. And that's one of the things I'd tell people. And I said, and there's this thing in the corner and it catches my sound. Do you know what I'm talking? They're like, no.
So you mean there's a technology that we don't get disturbed by other people's noises?
Yes. So when we speak, it captures the sound and it dissipates. So we don't, even though there's no roof on the place I live, and it's sort of like sunk in, you know, so I don't see anything going on outside, but I can, you know, feel the open air above me. I'm not trapped by a roof. It's just open, free air.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit circular. It's circular. It's like hard walls, square. But what's interesting is the other homes that I see, all of the homes, and this is before Telos, all of the homes that I would see, they would be built somewhat similar to what we would like here. But I don't live in a place like that. But other people, it's like they're establishing a community that looks like houses here for comfort. But they always face, they never face other, it's like everybody has open space in front of them. So nobody has to be, you know, it's very open and feeling. But there are big, beautiful mansions and castles, all of which I don't live in. Somebody else does.
So hold on. So what you're saying is that this is a bit like what Lowell Johnson was saying, that there are people living on the earth, but they're also living inside.
In the earth.
So you're
Is that what he's saying? He
Well,
says that?
yes, he met
Okay.
people in real life, which he was sure he'd also seen in
Oh,
Telos.
sees in Telos. Yes.
Yes, so that's what
I,
you're doing as well. You're living in Telos,
yeah, at
but you're
night.
also living. Oh, you think it's just at night? You think it's
Oh,
just
I
at
don't know.
night?
That could be. I don't know. I just know that there's the structures that are built to look like people, like on Earth, surface Earth.
Yeah.
But then I remember, and I remember this too, before knowing about Telos. I remember going in the house and where I could see out from anywhere in the house. And I remember saying to myself, this won't do because people on Earth want privacy. They don't want people to see in, right? But then I read in one of the books where they answered my question. You can see out, but people can't see in. But that my Earth person was seeing it from an Earth perspective, saying, like, it was almost like they were building places, they were preparing for us to come to inner Earth, and they were building structures that we would like and be comfortable with. But I was seeing it like, oh, but it's too open. Like, you got to have your privacy. And that question was never answered in my dream. Like, I would just sort of kept it to myself, like, well, I don't think this is going to fly. But then in a book I read where you can see out, but people can't see in. So you experience the flow and openness, but you still contain your privacy. So that answered that question I had.
Mhm.
Also, since that time, because in Dianne Robbins' books, it says there's an invitation to, as you go to bed at night, to ask to go to classes with Adama.
Yes, yes.
So I would diligently say, I want to go to classes with Adama.
Yes.
And I remember having situations, I didn't remember all of them, but I remember events where I would be taken through the furniture factory, and I would be, for some reason, I remember the beds and the bedspreads. So there was adult, I know this is weird. There was an adult bed and it had an insignia on it. And now I know I've seen the Galactic Command insignia. It was that insignia on the bedspread.
Right.
And I didn't know that's what that was before. And then on another bed, it was a kiddo bed, and the kiddo bed had a bedspread, and it was like cloudy, like gray and white, but it would puff with lightning puffs, like it would light up for fun for the kiddo.
Yes.
And then I remember taking this little hoverboard, and I was learning how to ride it, and it was going really fast, and I was scared I was going to fall off of it. So I zoomed on this hoverboard, and I got to the bottom of it, and I stepped off, and I was there with two other women, and we were in an undeveloped area, and we were so excited because we were going to help to develop the area for people coming. And that's all I know or remember of that part.
Oh, yes. I remember you told me this before. And did you
Yes.
think I was one of these women?
I felt like you were one of them. And then after I saw this video of a woman that was in Israel,
Oh, yes.
I felt like it was us three doing that together. Maybe there was more, but I felt like it was three, but we were just so excited. And then we were so excited for this. And then that ended. But I also have memories of myself on a Galactic Command ship and landing and seeing these beautiful dwarf beings. They're absolutely gorgeous. And I got off, and the mutual love we had for one another and mutual respect we had from one another, it was almost like I felt like an ambassador to come in and say, hi, how are things going for you? But it was such a loving relationship. And they were beings, they were shorter and broader in stature, but their bodies were beautifully, perfectly aligned. And they had ears, but they had a hole in their ear right here, a hole right there. And their hair but how they presented themselves were just perfect, just clean, immaculate, perfect little bodies, perfect stature, perfect hair. Like they were just like beautiful beings. And I knew who they were and they knew who I was. And we were just like, how are things going with you? That was a delightful dream. Yeah. So that's.
Do you know what kind of beings they are? Do you know where they came from?
No, but I'll tell you what, their grass, the land that they're in is very short grass, almost like you have in a golf course. And there's little tiny flowers all over it.
Oh, wow.
And very open, like no trees. I felt like the sky was very mystical sky.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they could be, inner Earth, but I know I took a small spacecraft to get there.
Okay, that's
a tiny one,
but
that I could just maneuver.
It resonates very much with me that I'm active in Telos, because I've always been interested, probably for about 10 years now. I've sort of had this interest, but much more now in this,
it's increasing
in this last year. Yes, definitely.
Wow. Oh, over the last year. So you know something's
over
coming.
the last year. And I've been connecting with Adama probably about 10 years ago already, but I've become much more interested in all of this in this last year, because it's really exciting, isn't it?
It's
Especially
really exciting.
the fact about the immortality, you know, that we don't, you know, it invites you to change your consciousness to what theirs is like, you know, no longer have aging or sickness in the consciousness. That's something like really revolutionary.
Yes.
And the idea that we could also go and live inside the earth at some point if we want to, and maybe some of us want to go inside, or some of them want to come outside.
Right.
You know, these kind of things goes through my mind.
Right. And you know what? I feel like you, of course, I would say earlier adopter, you know, I'm 10 years later than you. And then, you know, other people before that. And then, of course, there's ancient texts talking about it as well. But here's what's interesting, and something that I just learned a couple of days ago. I got a message from somebody that said, "Hi, how are you doing? By the way, are you part of the founder or member of the City of Telosa project?" And I said, no, because I'd been talking about Telos, you know, I've been talking about Telos on my clubhouse and
Yes.
with people in general and in the book. And he would, you know, he got the book and he's like, and I said, no, what is that? So I looked it up, and there's a gentleman, he's a billionaire from the United States.
Oh.
He got his billions through opening several companies and selling them. And he had this concept of kind of a city that's completely committed to the human, and the city having a soul. And he has decided that he's going to purchase a big swath of land, and it's going to be all oriented towards human potential, human development, and the city having a soul. And so I looked it up, and sure enough, not one person in there has anything to do with spirituality at all. They are urban developers. They are architects from Copenhagen. They are historians, and everything's really very 3D.
Oh.
And there's no talk, and they want diversity. And it is kind of set up on, you know, people living there and doing business like you do business now, and commerce like you do now. But they're going to make sure that all of the money that comes from the city is reinvested into the human, And so I said, wow, so these guys, it feels like, don't know anything about the city of Telos at all. Which for me, as an evidential medium, I need hard evidence before I believe something. It's their subconscious burping up to even call the city Telosa.
Wow.
Their subconscious is speaking to them, and they themselves are going with the quantum leap. Spirit doesn't care if you believe in spirit or not. Metaphysics doesn't care if you believe it in or not. But forward-thinking people are willing to take that quantum leap. But you know, it's their subconscious burping up and thinking this. And it's that idea from the universal mind. And to your point, they're taking the action on it themselves.
It's amazing.
And won't that maybe be a portal?
I've discovered this other lady, I think she lives in Switzerland, called Paulette Marie Raymond. So she also talks about beings from the inner earth, and she had this experience that Saint Germain led her to a portal in the mountains in Switzerland, and she met this 2-meter tall guy called Rodon, who then also, asked her to write a book. So I'm about to read it. So I don't know the content yet, but yeah.
It's time. We have to make that quantum leap. We have to.
This information to come out, yes.
Yeah. For our own survival as a unique expression of the God force, we must.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So why is it important for people to read this book at this moment in time?
Yeah. Well, at this moment in time, so many things are happening. Like I said, one thing that I had to add to my book, even after I finished it, is that now 60 Minutes is a television show for old folks. Like if 60 Minutes has the information, they're the last one to get it. So that's, it's mainstream. The invitation is from scientists from all walks of life to say, we are in the midst of a mass extinction. When you're in the midst of a mass extinction, you have to take dramatic quantum leap shift within yourself, within your own belief system of who you are, who you think you are, into something new. Animals do it all the time. We need to know that we are part of nature, and we have the ability, like the oak trees, like pigs, when they escape from a farm, they immediately grow tusks and bristly hair and become aggressive. That's their new reality, and they move with it. All of nature moves with quantum leaps very quickly. We're the only ones dragging our feet with fear. We have to let go of the fear, allow our bodies to expand with the new information. We are becoming crystalline, but you do have the choice to go with that or not. And then the opportunity is, if you're not willing to go with expansion in your physical form, you will go into expansion by dropping your form and going into, the spirit world. It's just the natural. You are eternal no matter what. But what direction do you want to go? I want to be part of the new earth. I want to go to Telos in this body as it moves into crystalline. I think that's fun. That is our ultimate Telos. Because you know the meaning of Telos.
Tell us.
Telos.
Tell us. I know it, but you tell us.
Tell us what the meaning of
Telos
Telos is.
Yes.
It is the ultimate goal.
Yes.
So you look at life as a video game, as Spirit has told me. Sometimes he said life is kind of like a video game. Sometimes you're in charge and sometimes you're not, but you're playing a game and you're reaching levels. Well, those of us who have gotten it into our consciousness that Telos is a reality, we have beat the game. We have done it.
We're very lucky.
We made it.
I was going to ask you, so how do you see yourself in this new golden age? How do you see yourself in the future? You partly responded already.
How do I see myself? I see myself. Now, what's interesting is I don't have a military background, but you know, I have 2 of 3 children that
Yes.
are military, and I
Oh,
come from a military family.
oh, wow.
I feel like I serve, I see this. So part of this game hasn't just been the dreams that I've had. Part of the game has been being guided, like told where to drive my car to. And one of the things it drove it, like go here, go there, kind of playing the game. How in tune are you with us? Like go here, go there. So I've been guided to neighborhoods in my area that look like they've recreated them in Inner Earth, really cute neighborhoods. I was guided to a cave system. I think I shared this with you.
You
It's in
did.
my neighborhood, but it's parked in between. It's in a nature hike area, but not somewhere that's obvious. But they had to reserve it because it's a sacred cave area. They didn't want to, develop the cave area. So I get to this cave, they guided me to. I didn't know it existed. I get to the cave, and its name is the Good Friday Cave, because it was discovered on Good Friday in 1988. And then it said, this cave was excavated on June 19th, 1989, which is my birthday.
Your birthday.
And that was the year that I came to Texas, and I came on my birthday. And I said, well, you just can't make this up. So I was guided there. I was also guided to a store, and it said, look, it's a bakery. It says, look in the window. And there was a little thing in there that said, it's a boy and it's a girl. And they said, you have a child in Inner Earth, a little one. So I feel like there's this desire to sort of raise this child in this wonderful utopian society with who I don't know who that person is. And, but also to enjoy my galactic career. I know that I work with light and dark. I know I've been watching humanity. I had a past life regression where I was looking for survivors from catastrophes. And I was in my galactic command suit looking for survivors. I've done that. And I've also seen where, you're going to like this. I watched so you know where Pisa, they have the Leaning Tower of Pisa,
Yeah.
but they also have the cathedral there, the Pisa Cathedral.
Yes.
I watched it come up, and I said to myself, wow, humanity's really progressing. I'm so happy for them. And I said them like it's not me.
Yeah.
But I watched it come up like a crystal. It was so beautiful.
Wow.
So I've been watching humanity's development and hoping for the best and helping in catastrophes for a long time. And now I'm seeing this sort of end game of it all. It's kind of ignorant to it, but knowledgeable about it as well.
So you've come here to help because this is sort of an emergency situation, isn't it, in a way?
And I feel like I just wanted so much for humanity, but I do work with the dark too. I've experienced times where I've gone into dreams where it's been nefarious characters, but I see them as human, like empathy for them or whatever. I still work with them. And I think in the Galactic Command, you do have to work with the dark and the light together. You have to do both. And I do that in real life too. I worked high school, and I worked with detention kids that were, there because they might have had a gun, or they might have had drugs, or they were a drug dealer.
Yeah.
I work with the dark and the light. I think I like doing both. And a little bit of density, I think.
Okay, but in the new golden age, there probably shouldn't be any more density.
I think the biggest thing I learned is that there's so much to me, and I think there's so much more for me to learn. I definitely don't know it. I'm on the surface of knowing anything. The more I know, the less I know.
Multidimensional experiences, as Laurel calls them.
Exactly.
There's so much going on, which we're probably not aware of, or things we're involved in, we're doing at different levels and different planes of existence.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I could know.
It'd
But
probably
we
be
just
too
get
much.
glimpses. We get glimpses. Yeah, we get.
I get glimpses. Yeah, I did get a glimpse too many years ago saying
Yes.
species is going to split. This is how new species are evolved. We split, we don't. And some will evolve physically to look different than others that are going this path of Telos. We'll split and we'll look different and evolve different.
Oh, and then I have one more question. I think, have you also researched information about the daughter? There's a king and queen of Telos, isn't there? And the daughter, she apparently came to live outside. Have you looked into any of that?
I listened to the tapes that she had on
Yes.
Dianne Robbins' website.
Yes.
That was a very emotional experience for me, because number one, it was informational, but the part where she talks about how women are treated the minute they find out that they're pregnant was very emotional for me, because I looked to see that Dianne Robbins' books were released like in 1992. And this was before I was married. And this was before I had children. And I thought to myself, if I could have gotten this information back then, my raising of my children and my treatment of myself would have been tipped upside down. I know I adore my children. I know I wanted what was best for them. But when I heard that, I said, my God, that's what that voice was telling me, was that if I don't change what I'm doing, I'm not going to get that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Realizing now that I was competitive. I wanted my children to be competitive. I was hard on them because I didn't want them to be left behind in a very changing, scary economy. I raised them to be, you be the best, because if you're not going to be able to make it in this world. And in my pregnancies, my second pregnancy, I was going through a very, very difficult time emotionally. It was a very hard time for myself and my belief about myself. My marriage was very challenged, and everything I felt was falling apart with my second child. And sure enough, that second child was born with very sick. He was sick with jaundice and a heart murmur, and he struggled, and he still struggles today. And I know it's because the minute I was pregnant with him, I was having emotions of extreme distress. And even though I came through that distress, not long after that, he's carried the burden of that within his body this whole time. So when I asked what the hell is going on, in that moment, and after I heard that tape from, I think, what is her name? Sharula. Yeah, Sharula. And I need to respect her name and the information she gave, because it was priceless. I think of how many moms are pregnant now with fear and not treated well. And that is the first cells that are being produced in these babies. And the results that we get today are ever pervasive because we keep producing that generationally, right? I experienced it in my life growing up. And even though I was like hell bent on, and my kids are doing very well, but I know I could have done better.
Well, I think we all go through all these things because there are lessons for us to learn. It's all part of our growth, isn't it?
It is.
And I believe we even choose our parents to, to provide the space for the lessons to take place.
Right. But I do believe the changes that I made at that time have made his life easier. And of course,
yes.
the pot of gold at the end of Rainbow was to make it to the Rainbow City in the first place, right?
Yes.
Shambhala, Rainbow City, and all of that.
Because all the changes you go through, they then still have an effect on your children as well. So the best thing we can do is work to raise our vibrations.
Exactly. It is my work and my honor to do that and to share that with whoever I can. Absolutely. And such great gratitude for people like yourself that are on the path and diligent and consistent with getting your message out there. It makes a huge difference, you know. I'm so grateful for all the YouTube videos and the podcasts I've seen. If people hadn't taken the time to do that, there's no way I'd be where I am today. There's just no way.
It's just amazing how the internet allows us to connect. We can connect with all the people that we're meant to connect on a global galactic scale even.
Exactly. And that was what Hedy Lamarr was on the precipice of creating back then.
Oh, wow.
And we could have had it a lot sooner, right?
Wow.
But look, we have it today, and the most important.
Oh, we do.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful.
Me too. So thank you so much for being here with me and sharing your amazing experiences. And yeah, let's see where this is taking us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I'm feeling really excited about what's ahead of us and working with you in Telos.
Me too. I know. I'm going to ask tonight, like, can we connect? But the problem is we're 7 hours, so 7 hours the other way. But that doesn't mean that we can't multidimensionally be doing, like, you're a mom and then you do this and this and that. We already are multidimensional.
They can synchronize it in some way. They can do anything.
Yeah, I love it.
And the house is built into caves is something that really fascinates me.
Me too.
And I've seen Chinese dramas where they have these kind of dwellings, and I was like, oh my God, wow, this is so amazing. It felt very familiar. It felt
and comfortable
great
and smell.
Yes.
I love it. I think about it myself and I'm like, that feels like home. Yeah.
And when I asked you, how do you see yourself in the future? I was thinking about myself too. I sort of saw myself maybe in a teaching position.
Mentor.
In Telos, and I heard the word wisdom teacher. So
I believe that, and I believe that's why we've connected, because I have heard the same thing, mentor. But I just think to myself, I don't know that I would know what to do.
You also heard wisdom teacher? You also heard wisdom teacher?
Yep. I did. Because it said mentor and of a particular district. And I'm just trying to, I'm saying that to you out loud. I don't know that I've internalized that because I feel like that's such a position of honor. And I don't know that I'm of that worth at this time. And I know that's
of course you are.
a horrible thing to say, but I can't help it. They said, okay, we're going to have districts, an area, and then you're going to be part of this district as a mentor. And of course, it would be people that are probably of my community that are like me, because I can most relate to them to help make that transition, and it makes sense from a logical, practical perspective, but we're going to have districts. And they even said the word district.
Wow.
The word district, which would make sense. Like, you would help make, because let's face it, if you're going to have a quantum leap and people are of the vibration to come in, but they don't have the knowledge, it is a difficult, you probably would need to be that transition coordinator. Transition.
Well, there's going to be a lot of work to do, I guess.
And I think we're excited about doing it. Yeah. And I do feel the thrill.
So let's stop the recording here. And